Elizabethan England produced some of the most influential and pioneering playwrights of the English-speaking language. William Shakespeare wrote during this period. It was a fertile field for the Elizabethan playwright. Even though there was much resistance by the local authorities, the plays and playhouses which surrounded the London city limits were immensely popular to the general public. The influence of the Italian Renaissance made accomplishment in art and learning the goal of every ambitious Londoner. The popularity of books supplied the playhouses with a literate public which raised the standard for the quality of their work. But the playwrights during this period also had to appeal to the lower classes that were not well educated. The challenge of appealing to this broad spectrum of potential audience members quickened the efforts of the playwrights of the Elizabethan England period and inspired them to write some of the greatest plays of all time. Perhaps the most lively and prolific group of playwrights to write for the theater at this time were referred to as the University Wits. The University Wits were a group of university-educated playwrights who were engaged in a friendly competition to outdo each other in the creation of plays based on the Senecan model. These men became celebrities around London, and their plays, while very highbrow, were very popular with all of the play-going public. Their plays often espoused ideals of the Italian Renaissance, and they tended to create three types of plays that became the staples of the Elizabethan stage. Such authors as John Lilly, Robert Greene, and Thomas Nash set the standard for playwriting in Elizabethan England. Perhaps the most prominent of the University Wits was Christopher Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe was admired during his lifetime for writing plays that were highly accomplished in their use of blank verse. We'll consider blank verse in our section on the iambic pentameter. Marlowe created villainous characters who had admirable qualities. Characters in such plays as The Jew of Malta, Tamburlaine, and Edward II shed the shackles of common morality to pursue their own personal ends. This made for very daring and breathtaking drama in its time. There were three types of plays in which Elizabethan playwrights excelled. These were the tragedies, the histories, and the comedies. The tragedies of Elizabethan England departed from the ancient Greek tragedies. They lacked the episodic structure and the attention that was paid to propriety. In this way, the Elizabethan playwrights were truer to their Roman counterpart Seneca. By his example, the Elizabethan playwrights excelled in what became known as the revenge tragedy. And perhaps no playwright achieved admiration and popularity more than the playwright Thomas Kyd for his revenge tragedy, The Spanish Tragedy. In Kyd's drama, there is much violence and deception. The scene in which the ghost of the lead character's father urges his son to avenge his untimely death spurred many imitators, including Shakespeare's Hamlet. The Elizabethans' thirst for vengeance and blood was often satisfied by the high number of revenge tragedies that were written and performed during this period. Another popular type of play that was common on the Elizabethan stage was the history play. The histories often celebrated some notable figure in English history and held up the admirable British traits of the character for the audience's delight. While the history plays were rarely accurate depictions of historical events, they often supplied their audience with a strong sense of pride and national good feeling. The comedies of Elizabethan England allowed the playwrights of England to excel at what they were educated to do: write poetry. While the comedies of this period were similar to today's comedies in that they were designed to make their audience laugh, what set the Elizabethan comedies apart is their extraordinary use of the emerging English language. The English language, as we know it, came into existence during the Elizabethan period. Many playwrights were also poets who elevated the English language to its poetic height. The comedies of this period were known as much for their beauty as for their ability to make the audience chuckle. The Pastoral Comedy was popular during this period and depicted simple, rural life with language that was meant to mirror the beauty of a natural countryside. Perhaps the most significant playwright of comedy during the Elizabethan period was Ben Jonson. Jonson was a university-trained playwright, but he did not associate himself with the university wits. He was fiercely independent and popular. His comedies focused on the dark side of human nature. His plays have often been referred to as the comedies of humors. Humors were considered overriding traits that individuals had depending on the humor that dominated their body. Jonson was best known for his comedies Every Man and His Humor, The Alchemist, and Bartholomew Fair. His play Volpone is a study in the comedy of humors and is often revived in professional productions today. Well, it's time again. Time to go to your task for this section. Once completed, we will continue our discussion of Elizabethan theater, including a look at the greatest playwright of all time. See you next time.